the dark annals of human history, few institutions are as deeply haunting and dehumanizing as slavery. While the horrors of slavery are well known, there is a lesser-known aspect of the horrifying practice that delved even deeper into the depths of wickedness: slave breeding. This practice involved slave owners hand-selecting the most fit and strong slaves and forcing them into reproducing, similar to the way livestock is bred. The effects of slave breeding are still felt today, and while slavery as a whole has become a featured topic in schools everywhere, slave breeding oftentimes is overlooked. The institution of slavery in the United States was fundamentally driven by economic interests, with cheap slave labor forming the backbone of many industries. However, as the demand for work grew, slave owners looked for ways to increase the efficiency of their workforce. This led to the emergence of slave breeding as a systematic practice. Enslaved individuals were treated as mere commodities, subjected to forced mating, auctioning, and heart-wrenching separation from their families. Their lives and bodies were often brutally manipulated to serve the economic interests of their captors. Slave breeding took various forms, all of which aimed to maximize the number and efficiency of enslaved individuals. Slaveholders would forcibly pair slaves, disregarding their autonomy, emotions, and desires. They saw enslaved women as breeders, whose sole purpose was to produce more slaves for their master's profit. Auctioning off enslaved individuals with desirable physical traits or proven fertility was another method employed to drive the breeding process. In addition, separating families became a strategic tactic to manipulate breeding outcomes and maintain control over enslaved populations. The psychological and emotional impact of slave breeding cannot be overstated. Enslaved individuals were denied the right to form consensual relationships, raise children, and experience the simple joys of family life. The bonds of love and kinship were torn apart, leaving deep wounds that continue to echo through generations. The trauma inflicted upon enslaved families is a painful legacy that continues to impact the descendants of slaves today. The dark world of slave breeding left an unforgettable mark on the fabric of American society. Its implications are still felt today, as African Americans continue to grapple with the intergenerational trauma and systemic inequalities resulting from centuries of enslavement. The dark world of slave breeding reveals the depths of cruelty and inhumanity that characterized the institution of slavery. It highlights the manipulation of enslaved individuals, the heartbreak of separated families, and the enduring trauma still felt today. By understanding and confronting this dark history, we take a step towards healing the wounds of the past and creating a more compassionate and inclusive society.